There's a pretty good chance that you could easily get hooked on any of the fragrances we're going to be talking about in today's video. These are so easy to pull off. They're liked by so many people around you. A lot of these, pretty much all of them here, have really good performance as well. There just isn't too many negatives to these. Now, there might be a couple that would be considered to be played out or too popular or whatever, and that's a matter of opinion. I think a lot of times scents like that will still perform and work very well. People will still compliment you and still love how it smells regardless, to some extent. We can go over that more, but I think these are just super easy to fall in love with, and so I'll warn you ahead of time, if you were to pick any of these up, there's a good chance you're going to be wearing them a lot, probably more than you might think. If any of these catch your attention, I'll link them down below and you can pick them up at discounters and save yourself a good amount of money. This first one here, Azzaro Chrome Extreme. You know, you're looking at around $45 for this one, 100 ml. And it's pretty close to Acqua di Gio Profondo, which is, you know, around $100 or so on discounters. Somewhere up in that range, depends on the bottle size and where you're shopping and so on. But, you know, this is about half the price or a little bit less than half the price. So it's a great affordable alternative if you want something that is close to Profondo, but you just don't want to spend that amount of money. So this one has orange, it's got sea notes, and it just has that kind of somewhat mineral aquatic smell that Profondo has. It doesn't have the same level and complexity of the mineral style that Profondo has, which makes that one very distinct and it makes it stand out. But there is some of that in here to kind of tie them both together. This is perfect for this time of year right now. Spring, summer, when it's hot out and the sun is shining, this type of smell works incredible because it's kind of cooling and refreshing in a way. So when you have this one on and it's hot outside and you're, you know, starting to heat up, it doesn't get on your nerves like some other fragrances might. You know, if you go for something a little bit more bubblegummy sweet, you might feel inclined to go and wash it off. It might start to bug you a little bit, but not so much the case with this. You know, it is something that is tolerable when it's really, really hot outside. Not just for you, the person wearing it, but other people around you will probably smell this and just think it smells great as well. It's very fitting for the warm weather. This would be great for daytime use, nighttime use, dressed down, even to some extent a little bit more formal as well. You can just do anything with this stuff. And at this price point, you can't go wrong with it. Definitely check out Azzaro Chrome Extreme. Now, if you already have Acqua di Gio Profondo, this isn't like a necessity, but if you do want an affordable alternative to where you can wear this one more and kind of burn through it quicker and in a way kind of save yourself some money in the long run, not having to repurchase Profondo a bunch of times, that would be something to consider. Next up, we have Armani Code Parfum. So I've said this before many times and it's still crazy to me, but at this point you only have a couple of Armani codes to choose from as far as what's in production that you can purchase right now easily. And that is, of course, the original, which has been rebottled into a bottle that looks like this, so they're changing that over, the Eau de Toilette. They have the new, or not the new, but they have the Eau de Parfum, which maybe they're changing that one over as well. I can't remember if they have yet or not. And then the Parfum. So there's three. We're down to three. There have been many more over the years. Some more limited ones like Armani Code Ice, kind of a summer edition, Colonia, and of course some of their best works, Absolute and Profumo. All of those are gone now. And so in terms of what you can still buy, I would say that Armani Code Parfum is the best, okay? Now, again, to reiterate, in terms of what you can get in production right now, you know, this still doesn't quite, you know, live up to the same level of just greatness that the Code Absolute and Profumo did, but this one is still really good on its own. It's featuring some iris in here, which smells great, but it's not too overbearing, and it doesn't smell like Dior Homme Parfum, Valentino Uomo Intense, or anything like that. So it's still very much Armani Code with that tonka bean kind of fresh DNA, just with a little sweet iris. It just gives it a nice little twist. It's great stuff. It's not too sweet, so it still has a lot of usability. Even when it's warmer outside, you would be surprised how often you can pull this one off in a wide variety of situations. It's a little bit more expensive, you know, on discounters, but it's still nothing too crazy. It's definitely something you'll get your money's worth out of. Jumping from one parfum to another, no surprise if you've been watching the channel for any amount of time, I love Parfum flankers. I think there's a lot to be said about a brand and a line, designer line or niche, that can start off with something and then continue to improve it as time goes on. Typically, as you go higher in concentration, the scent does get more refined, and a lot of times it just gets better. And that's definitely the case here as well with Dior Sauvage Parfum. So at this point, most are going to tell you that the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum are too popular. I still don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Is it very popular? Yes, they are, 100%. Do they still smell great? Yes, they do. And I can tell you this from experience, Sauvage, and not just Sauvage, but other fragrances, they do smell different from person to person depending on who's wearing it. You might smell Sauvage on someone, but you might not be able to pinpoint it 100%. It might smell a little bit different. It's just insane what skin chemistry can do. But you can still go for something like Sauvage Parfum, which is going to be more refined. It is going to be more polished, so to speak. It's a little bit less playful. The performance is different in the fact that it doesn't have the same type of obnoxious delivery that the original has, which I think is something a lot of people will be looking for. So it kind of sits closer to the skin but leaves a great trail and still has great longevity. So definitely recommend Sauvage Parfum. And you might not expect it, but it's something that you can wear a lot and you might be surprised on just how often you're picking this bottle up. Next up, we have YSL La Nuit de l'Homme, big old 200 ml here. Had this bottle for a long time now, and definitely don't regret going for this bottle size either. So you guys know the drill for this one at this point. It's got cardamom, some lavender, some cedar wood in here, but really it's the cardamom and lavender. Those two are the star of the show. It's warm and spicy, rich, addicting, with a kind of a masculine lavender freshness to balance things out, because without the lavender, without the cedar wood, it might go in somewhat of a more unisex direction. But the way this one is tied together with all the other notes, it makes it just have the perfect balance. It's a little bit sweet, but not too much. It's a little bit woody, a little bit aromatic, but not too much of those either. It's spicy, but not too much, depending on who you ask. Not everybody's going to like the cardamom, I understand that. But as a whole, this is still a really, really attractive smelling scent. Something that will still turn heads and smell great to so many people. I don't care that it was released 14 years ago or whatever it was at this point, and that it's been way too popularized. It still works great and it still smells incredible. Not dated, I don't think it ever will be, so it is a timeless scent. And if you spend the money on, make a little bit of an investment, it's going to pay off big time. And this one isn't crazy either. It's 80 bucks, 90 bucks on discounters for 100 ml. That's not bad. Next up, we have Tom Ford Gray Vetiver. This is the Parfum. So what I love so much about this is that it's soapy and kind of earthy slightly, but not too much, and just super classy and clean. And typically that is what you would expect from Tom Ford. They're a luxury designer brand, and they, it's evident based on their pricing. A lot of their stuff is very expensive. The private blends are very expensive, and these more, designer priced variants here, the Tom Ford for Men lineup, and their new signature lineup or whatever, where they're bringing over some private blends into that. They're more affordable, but they're still not cheap by any means. But you do get great quality across the board out of these. A lot of them do have great performance, better than you might expect given just the feedback that you hear online. Never had any issues with the performance of Gray Vetiver Parfum. Really long lasting, doesn't project too strong. It is more of a intimate, closer to the skin type of scent, which is what you would want for this type of DNA. And again, very classy, very expensive smelling, like you would expect. And it's just something that you can wear every day and not have to think about. Let's go over to Parfums de Marly Carlisle. So this stuff is incredible. It's one of my favorite Parfums de Marly fragrances. It's just kind of smoky, vanillic, has kind of a somewhat Middle Eastern smell to it, but not really a ton. a very small amount, like just a very faint hint of oud in here, a lot of vanilla, balsam, kind of smokiness, a lot of patchouli as well, which gives it just a real nice kind of sweet, slightly earthy, masculine undertone. It just smells so good. Now you might see this one get compared to Mancera Red Tobacco, and there might be a little bit of a resemblance, but not major. So Red Tobacco is using a ton of tobacco and oud to a heavier extent, and it is going to be, in my opinion, a bit more challenging. Honestly, Carlisle is more wearable between the two. I think it would be a better compliment getter. Performance is pretty close. Both of them are just so strong that it almost doesn't matter. You know, if one lasts 2 hours more, you know, at 12, 14-hour performance between both of them, doesn't really matter that much. You know, that's a long time for something to last consistently. So, you know, really don't have a big issue there. The main thing is going to be price point. The Mancera you can get for under $100 a lot of the times, and there's an intense version out too that you can get for around there. This is, you know, what is it, $270 to $300 on discounters if you're lucky to get it actually below retail on discounters. So the price point is the limiting factor here. But if you want to splurge on a fantastic wearable niche scent that you are very likely to fall in love with and just get addicted to, Parfums de Marly Carlisle is going to be one of the best out there. Of course, there's Leighton, there's Sedley, there's Greenlee, there's these amazing scents as well, and the last two there are more summer oriented, whereas this, Leighton, Herod, things like that are going to be more fall and winter. There's just something special and magical about Carlisle. It really stands out in a great way. And even for me, going into this, I had trouble pulling the trigger because of that price point. It's not cheap, but I'm so glad that I did, and I wish I would have done it a little bit sooner on. Last up for this video, we have Terre Eau Givree, another one that's very appropriate for this time of year right now, spring and summer. The reason why is because it's kind of a watery citron-based scent, which is kind of like a sour citrus, essentially. And then the watery notes are giving it kind of a fresh balance. Now, you still do get that vetiver in here, which is, you know, a driving note in the rest of them. The original Terre d'Hermès, the, you know, Eau Intense Vetiver, obviously, but the others use it as well. The Parfum. And then even, you know, the older Eau Très Fresh, which this is the replacement of that. You know, they all use vetiver quite a bit, and it's a very versatile note. This does not smell anything like Tom Ford Grey Vetiver Parfum, so there's not going to be any redundancy there between the two. This one, much more summer-oriented, fresher, doesn't really have as much of the soapiness. This one actually is going to be a little bit more earthy, but not a ton. Now, Terre d'Hermès Parfum going to be much more earthy. So this one is lightened up, but it just doesn't have the same type of, again, to use the word soapiness or whatever it might be. But this stuff smells great. It's a respectable performer. It's a decent price on discounters. These are refillable. So if you were to burn through this, you can buy a refill, which will be less than buying the whole bottle again. So, you know, something that not everybody cares about. I don't really care too much, but it might be worth it to you. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. Some fantastic fragrances that you might get addicted to if you end up trying these out. So be forewarned, they're great signature scents. They're great to just wear and not have to worry about it. And for the most part, pricing on these isn't too rough besides Carlisle. And performance across the board is pretty good, except for maybe La Nuit de l'Homme, the original. It isn't really a beast mode scent. If you don't want to spend a bunch of money on La Nuit de l'Homme, not that it's too expensive, you could also go for something like a Grandeur Icon Nuit, which is a La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique clone. It smells great, it's much more affordable, and not a beast mode scent either, but again, it's more affordable. So it just depends on what you want to go for. This stuff is amazing as well. And it was between me putting this in the video and the original La Nuit. I didn't want to feature them both, be redundant. So I guess I'll just throw this one in at the end as well. It just depends on your budget and what you're looking for. So I'll link them all down below, but that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.